Coming at you from the OLR podcast studio.
It's really more of a basement.
Coming to you from the OLR basement studio.
But it's still a podcast.
Coming to you from the podcast basement studio.
Yeah, but you still need to say OLR.
Coming to you from the OLR podcast basement studio.
Oh, that's way too many words.
Coming at you.
That's not enough. You still need to say OLR.
Let's just start. It's OLR. Welcome, OLR listeners. Welcome to the show. It's just Lucas tonight, so if you hear some big pauses here in the next few minutes, it's because I'm waiting for Dustin to respond to me, and he wasn't able to make it tonight. But you won't have to just listen to me tonight. I do have a special guest for us tonight, so I told everybody that I had a new coach that I'd enlisted the help of a professional, and he's here to talk to us now. His name is Matt Estridge. Matt is the owner of Fit Diesel out of Knoxville. So I asked him to come on, talk to us, and give us a little bit of information as to what it is I'm doing and what it is that he has everybody do. It's just called Metabolic Building, which is it's not the only thing that he does, but it's one of the big things that separates him from everybody else. So if you've been waiting for our fitness shows, here it is. Here it is, folks. So everybody strap in. We got Matt for about an hour here, and he gives some good information. Hang in there and listen. It's a really interesting podcast. So without further ado, here we go.
This is Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I want to talk to you a minute about the world of podcasts.
What?
You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I do one myself in the main streets of Los Angeles, California. So what does Stone Cold like when it comes to podcasts?
What?
I like music.
What?
Sports.
What?
Fitness.
What?
And just everyday basic life.
What?
I said everyday basic damn life. When it comes to the podcast, there ain't nobody better than the boys at the One Lane Road podcast with Lucas and DK. And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
That's literally the worst Stone Cold I've ever heard.
Why, you stupid son of a...
All right, everybody. Tonight we're joined by Matt Estridge, owner of Fit Diesel from Knoxville, Tennessee. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
Good, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Doing really well. Thank you so much for making time for us. I told everybody that I was working with a coach, working with somebody to help me out with my diet and everything, and here you are.
Well, I'm glad you have me on. It's an interesting topic, especially I'm sure we'll get into at some point some of the metabolic buildings and things that aren't as well known in the public, and that's my big push, is to be one of the few people out there that are going to educate the public on some pretty nice insights, some stuff that I think everybody would be very happy to hear versus what they've heard for the last 30, 40 years.
Well, that's definitely one thing I want to get into tonight, because that's something that I've been researching about this and somewhat doing it for several years now. But metabolic building is not something that I'd ever done or ever come across. And it's been an interesting process so far. It's very interesting. But before we get into that, I want you to give a little bit of your background to everybody. How did you get into fitness?
Okay. So fitness for me started off young, probably around before my first weights I ever picked up was probably 9, and it wasn't the heavy weights. Even at that time, we knew that, heavy lifting for someone too young would stunt growth and have some adverse effects. So, but I was already into it around 9. 12 was the first actual dumbbell weights I had. And then I just started reading like everybody else did. Nothing new, magazines, some educational materials and books that I could understand at that time. And then from there, as I got older for high school and stuff and high school athletics and trying to pursue college athletics, I wanted to, obviously, I believe that performance and enhancement from strength and conditioning and nutrition would benefit me, especially since not many of us can be just absolutely 100% genetic freaks, is what I would say.
Right.
There's only a few Herschel Walkers and things like that, and I wasn't going to be that. I mean, I had great speed. I had for my size, at roughly 6 foot and about that time 200 pounds, I'd do about a I've got it down to about 4.5 a few times. You know, more running 4.55, 4.52, stuff like that. But a few times at that 4.5, never could really break that barrier for me. Vertical, I started off in high school around 36 inches, which was respectable, but I really wanted to work on that. And believe it or not, this conversation, you might take us to that point. The old school strength shoes, remember those a long time ago? The platforms?
Yeah, I had them.
Yeah. Well, see, they actually, a lot of people are like, well, they work, and some are like, they don't. Well, I actually did the program to the T and kind of advanced upon it. And they actually worked very well for me. I went from a 36-inch vertical to a 43.5-inch vertical.
Wow!
in a matter of 4.5 months.
7.5 inches.
Pre-summer. Yeah. I mean, my guys saw me come back. I would barely dunk. Every once in a while, I couldn't palm the ball. And at 6 foot, that's great. I was coming back in reverse and dunk. I mean, it was just unheard of. I just couldn't believe it. So I was always into it from that point of view. My wife was actually a Division I athlete. She actually played softball for Tennessee, and she was very good in basketball too. She was just one of those athletes, but wasn't quite tall enough and good enough ball handling for Pat Summitt back then. But she was good, about 26 points a game. But I wasn't as good as she. I could only get a Division II scholarship, and I always knew I wanted to go into serving our country in some capacity. Federal law enforcement was one of those. I was trying to decide between that and military. And so I continued my study. Strength conditioning, decided to come to UT. I decided to get back into boxing, which I'd done for a long time, and boxed for a guy that's well known in Knoxville. He's passed now. His name was Ace Miller. And from there, continued studying nutrition and strength conditioning. And then finally, I was given a great opportunity at the University of Tennessee to start as a strength coach. And back then, when you still start out these days, you usually start out as a volunteer, which is $0. So, and then, you work your way into a stipend of maybe back then $125 a week. And then you finally start working your way into possibly a low salary. It's kind of where I went. And then from there, John Stuckey was there. Many out there probably won't remember that name, but he was a pioneer in strength conditioning. He's in the Strength Conditioning Hall of Fame. I was there 1 year when he was still around. He passed the buck to Johnny Long, which was former strength coach for a long time before, obviously, former stopped being a coach. And then from there, I went into law enforcement, did local, did some federal task force stuff, went into counterterrorism. And at that point, I ran into a gentleman, a good friend of mine. It was a colleague that really he's a true physique athlete. And I found out that my nutrition science study, which is what we all know, fruits, vegetables, they all say the same thing. I was on a podcast recently. They had a nutritionist on a few weeks before it, and then they had me on after. And they said the content difference was just great. And I said, well, I understand that because nutritional science or registered dietitians, while educated, they understand the micronutrient level, which is our vitamins and minerals and what we need and where deficiencies are and how to acclimate to those deficiencies. They understand that very well. But outside of fruits and vegetables and what a healthy diet is, we all consider clean eating, in quotes. That doesn't do anything for anybody when it comes to educating them on how to actually lose weight, how to actually keep the hormone balance good during weight loss or maintain the amount of muscle they possibly can, the most they can, nor does it tell them how to take diet breaks and why, or how to preserve those goals you reached for longevity, for good. It doesn't delve into that. And for medical doctors, which I have friends who are, I mean, they get about an 8-hour course on nutrition. That's it.
Oh yeah,
medical school. My
favorite thing is going in and seeing a fat doctor and them telling you you're out of shape. That's my favorite thing in the world.
That's actually a good point. Really good point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the shortest I can tell you is that, and that began my real study at that point, probably around 2000, and my best guess is about 2011. I really started a hardcore study, and honestly, it took me about 2 full years to finally start getting to the right people and grasping the right knowledge and seeing the science. And it really is a small pool of people. It really is. I mean, I could probably name 18 or 20 of them that I know throughout the nation. A few are international, And it doesn't mean there's not more of them that know this. It's just these are kind of the well-known pioneers who, cream of the crop from education and proof through their athletes or themselves. And they're not well known because they're PhDs, Lucas, and they're not on social media. Some of them are, but they're not.
It's not their forte.
Guys with,
yeah.
No, guys with great physiques that they coach have many more followers and watch more than they are because that guy has a great physique and this guy is the one that's behind that great physique, if that makes sense.
So is this where you come up with the concept of metabolic building from talking to these people?
It is. It's the study of what these guys were pioneering. I mean, I'd love to say I'm the pioneer of that. I'm not. I'm a student of that.
Okay.
But the reason you don't hear about it, and you've looked at all these, all the study you've done, because I've talked to you as a client. I mean, you're well educated in strength and conditioning. You followed nutritional science. You studied it. You knew everything else everybody else has ever known that I've talked to or coached or helped. It's what it is that there's so few and far between to find somebody that understands metabolic building. And then here's the thing: once you get into the topic of metabolic building, there's about 3 different viewpoints. It's almost like politics. I mean, it really is. It's almost like independent, Democrat, Republican. There's 3 views on how to do it. There's a very conservative view. There really is. There's a very liberal view, and there's a right down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Like with you, for example, and my client, I take the conservative view. And the reason that is, every program I've ever given to someone, or every dietary analysis program I've ever given, I myself have done it prior to, and not just once. I have years with it since I've been doing that, since around 2011. And so has my wife as well. She's been my guinea pig a lot of the way as well, before I really got into big-time coaching with this knowledge. Because I wasn't coaching anybody with this knowledge until I could prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few people trusted me in the early on days. Because at that point, I couldn't charge anybody. I was still a government agent at that point. So,
right.
Right. You couldn't have 2 jobs at that point. So, but with that said, that's where I came up with metabolic building. People call it different names. There's a couple different coined phrases. But these are the people I studied and they don't, by the way, Luke, they don't put it in a manual. They don't just give it out. This is just in the last year and a half, has there actually been a good double-blind peer-reviewed study on metabolic building that was done for the first time that showed the same results that their experience had told them. So like a lot of things in lifting or in nutrition, they knew it beforehand by gut feeling, by trial and error, but they couldn't prove it by a scientific method yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I came up with it. And if I tried to name them, I'd have to give them all credit. There's a lot of them, but you had to read their stuff. You had to listen to them. So my wife can tell you, I walked around all the time with while still paying attention to the family with a earphone in my ear to do podcasts and to read books that they were doing. It was just it was ridiculous. I'm sure with your education background in engineering, it's kind of that OCD-ness of studying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just going over it and over and over to see if you missed something or see if you can find a different perspective on it. Cross-checking, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep, that's it.
So give us a breakdown, give us the 30,000 foot. What is metabolic building and what's the benefit of it as opposed to just going straight into a diet?
Okay. So metabolic building is just simply taking someone's metabolism and increasing it by in a very integral way and very strategic way, placing calories slowly into the diet so that the body will acclimate to those calories without adding fat to your body because it's such a small amount until that person reaches a potential of metabolism that's their max. So the benefit of that is, and if that wasn't well enough explained, then you tell me and I'll explain it a different way because I'm trying to get better at putting it in layman's terms. It's like this. It'd be like your gas tank is half full. All right, you've been running around your gas tank half full, and all you do is you keep fueling it to half. Every time you get to half, you just fill it back up to half. That's it, or a little below it. Well, when you do that, that's like your metabolism. So when people aren't paying attention to it or never knew what their maintenance calories is, so their maintenance calories is what they need to sustain their body weight at what it is right now today for tomorrow, next day, and throughout the years. So whatever those calories are, if it's 2,000 calories, if it's 3,000, whatever that is, they have to know that. Now we'll get to that in a minute because we have to be able to know, you have to find out how to get that first.
Mm-hmm.
But once you do that, there's a ratio of calories to body weight on an average. Now, of course, averages are just what they are, averages. Right. So we have outliers of those, and those averages come from something called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. What that means is activity that's done that has nothing to do with exercise. So let's take a stay-at-home mom, for example, running around taking care of kids, cooking, cleaning, whatever. Or somebody who's a construction worker just literally, they're not even doing physical activity we call in the gym, but they are actually using muscle and calories as energy to produce for their job. Well, that NEAT factor is very hard to determine. So if you go out, Lucas, and get into a bod pod, you've heard of the bod pod, I'm sure.
No, I haven't heard of that
device. Okay, a bod pod looks like an old school spaceship kind of,
Mm-hmm.
It's just not more of an oval, like an egg. You'll jump into it, college athletes will, and they've had that at Tennessee and big universities since probably about 2006, maybe a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They're very expensive then. You jump into it, you wear a little swimmer's cap and underwear, and that's it. And you find out what your maintenance calories are.
And just measuring the heat that you're putting off?
What's that now?
Is it just measuring the heat that you're putting off? The heat, how much you heat up that little pod?
No, it's not. That is a science that I do not know. All the scientists who created that and patented that, that'd be something more up your lane, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious how they actually did that. But it's used through electrodes, of course, but what they are measuring in the body to find that out, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Now, I know what a DEXA scan is. A DEXA scan is going to look at how much your body fat is, and then sometimes they can produce through equation what your calories and maintenance are. Or they use equations like the Harris-Benedict formula,
mm-hmm.
the Mifflin-St. the modified Harris-Benedict, the newer one, or what's well known as the molar equation. That's what's most utilized.
Mm-hmm.
But those are all equations. And NEAT is very hard to determine for each person every day. So every single day of your life, like your car, back to that example, you're driving that car different distances every day. All right, let's take a person who doesn't go do the same thing and do the same thing every day. Well, different days require different amounts of gas. And that means, in this case, different amounts of calories.
Mm-hmm.
So a person who doesn't know that, first of all, how to find out what their maintenance calories are, and they, if they were an athlete or never were, or an athlete that stopped paying attention to their eating and working out because they're done with athletics, or just a person who's never paid attention to it, well, your body's a very smart machine. Now, whether you're a person of religion or faith or anything else, I personally am. I personally believe God made a smart machine. And that machine is meant to adapt and not starve,
mm-hmm.
as long as it can. A good example of that is Holocaust survivors.
Right.
They in the 1950s, they actually replicated a study, which they can't do anymore because it's against the obviously rules of studies now. But
yeah.
they actually took people who were willing to go through a prison war type camp like that.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? All this metabolic adaptation you keep hearing about, and that you'll get to the point where you can't lose any more weight. Well, let me go ahead and tell the viewers out there to listening, that's crap. Because those people continued to lose weight till they were just skin and bones. You know why? Because they simply created a caloric deficit. They were taking in less calories than they were expending. So that's the key. If you want to lose weight, it's not some magical thing or anything else out there for listeners. It is that you are not eating less calories than your body's expending. That's just that simple.
Yeah. You know, the other thing, before we go on from the Holocaust,
Yep.
Holocaust survivors, really interesting thing happened to a lot of those is extended their lifespan quite a bit too. That large period of not overeating is what it looks like extended their lifespans quite exponentially for a lot of them.
Now, see, I've read that as well and looked into that further. And again, now I'm not a medical doctor here. This
right.
is my opinion.
Right.
I'm seeing a lot of research. all the time, to be honest, coming out. And I think that you and most people out there these days were educated enough with the amount of information we receive so easily that fat or obesity
Right.
is directly related to disease state,
Right.
whether it's cancer, diabetes, heart disease, whatever it may be. Obesity is always a factor every time.
Yeah. And there's
So,
just to build on that, the other thing about that comes with obesity is overconsumption. Overconsumption leads to, and this may be bro science, and this is a talking head spitting stuff out that I've heard, so just take it for that. But what they found is with overeating comes that stuff getting into your bloodstream, and that's that overconsumption and it spilling over into the bloodstream is actually part of the process that causes all of those negative things like heart disease, cancer growths, and what have you.
well, now that makes sense from my point of view, because here's why. When we're going to jump back to what we're saying in a minute. I'm going to finish that, but we're kind of jumping around. These kind of podcasts I enjoy because they kind of go different places.
Yeah.
But I'm going to circle back for the viewers and remember what you asked me to.
Yeah.
So let me just jump off on this real quick.
Yeah.
So they did a study recently. There's a new thing out there that people have theories on, hypotheses. There's been one study that's kind of alluding to it, but they all say it's not proven yet because we need multiple studies to really prove something, right? A good meta-analysis of studies. So there's something called body fat set point.
Uh-huh.
We all have one. Our body likes to be in this body fat range, and that's why there's different body types. The small, medium, large, or the ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph body types. So with that said, your body wants to be there. Well, when people diet and they yo-yo diet, they diet some, then they binge, diet and binge, diet and binge. Well, that sets your body up for a really bad spot to be in. And what it does, they found out, is that when you diet a lot, your metabolic rate or your maintenance calories, they reduce over time. So that's that metabolic adaptation that I'll talk about. So your body does reduce calories, back to that God thing. It's trying to keep it alive, like the Holocaust survivors. It's trying to keep you alive as much as it can. So it's reducing your activity. So what happens in men, for example, sex drive decreases, testosterone decreases. You'll even find yourself moving less, talking less. Naturally, it automatically starts slowing you down to save energy. Well, what's happening when you binge, and when I say binge, it's not just a day binging. When people binge, gain 15, 20, 30 pounds after a diet, gain it all back, like bodybuilders have always done, right? Natural or unnatural.
Uh-huh.
Well, with that, they're saying that it's going to shoot you past your body fat set point. Actually, because fat cells, they shrink and they increase. They don't add more or decrease them. They don't just lose them. And it's always been shrinking or increasing the size of that cell. Well, this body fat set point, by binging from a long diet phase, is causing cells to be replicated. So you're actually adding fat cells to your body. Now, they did that in rats recently. And for everybody out there listening, they said, well, it's not humans. Well, rats are actually close to humans when it comes to studies. That's why they use them. They haven't done this in humans yet. But my point is, too many people have seen this from an experience standpoint, as well as seeing it from the science and also this recent study. So with that said, that's a spillover of calories. The cell can't handle the size of the cells that can't grow anymore. Right. So it literally starts duplicating. So it kind of goes back to what you're saying, in my opinion, right. That a student of this, not an expert of the medical doctor or the science of this side, that you would spill over when it comes to those disease states. So if you're predisposed to cancer, well, all of a sudden you're not getting rid of those free radicals in your body because you're over consuming. Right. If it's heart disease, you're obviously the amount of fat and triglycerides, plaque build up is excessive to build up. It's not withheld in the normal system or the cell or the red blood cells of the bloodstream. So, coming full back circle again, real quick to that tank point of view, that metabolic building, the point is, if you're running around because your body's adapted to stay alive in that starvation mode, because it really goes into, literally defense mechanism mode. And without getting way too in the weeds on that, everybody just needs to understand that your body goes into several defense mechanism modes to stop you from starving or losing fat. Doesn't mean you can't. It's just defending it. A good example of that is as soon as you start a diet, and tell me if this has happened to you. So you started dieting, all of a sudden, you look like you have less muscle size, and you look like you have more lower belly fat within just a few days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, the reason for that is when you start a diet, the body goes into that defense mode, and one of the defenses is to retain water. Well, water fills the subcutaneous fat layer. So that is the layer between your skin and your muscle. That's that fat layer, subcutaneous, right below the cutaneous level of skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's water retention. So it fills those gaps. And the more fat you have, the worse it looks. The less fat you have, it obviously doesn't look as bad. Well, beyond that, when you start dieting, you have less. Usually, when people diet, they reduce their carbohydrate level.
Right.
So this is one of the major percentages of diet. Well, carbohydrates are glycogen, and glycogen fills the liver and the muscles. And when the muscles are depleted of glycogen, they don't look as inflated. So you're not losing muscle, you're losing glycogen. You're not fatter, you're retaining water.
Well,
and see, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish thinking.
The important part about that, especially for women, because they really have, that's my clients who have the biggest psychological issue with this, is see, people diet emotionally. They don't diet scientifically. That's why you'll get a coach usually. And the coaches, most of them aren't doing it from a science point of view. They're doing it from a true bro science point of view. Doesn't mean it can't work.
Right.
I just don't think it's efficient. Well, then all of a sudden they just get discouraged, frustrated, and they binge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's yo-yo dieting.
Right.
So back to that metabolic building, here's what happened. Let's take a female, for example. I have one client right now, I'll say her name at all, but her metabolic rate of maintenance calories per day is 1,373 calories.
Holy crap.
That's low.
Yeah.
Especially it's low because she is a mesomorph, the middle-sized body type.
Really?
Okay, more of a V shape, yeah. So that's low for a mesomorph. Low for a small girl, 100-pound female, is 900 calories. You get below that, you can't even get the nutrition you need for a day. It would be impossible to do it. It's a very unhealthy place. So around 1,400 is kind of the next range for a female. Shouldn't drop below that really too much.
Mm-hmm.
Even professional physique competitors who are female that are natural don't drop much below 1,200, to be honest. So with that said, 1,373, if I'm correct, approximately 1,373. I told her, you can't diet. I have to build your metabolism because you have nowhere to diet. Because if it takes 500 calories a day for 7 days, 3,500 calories to lose a pound of fat, well, 500 calories off 1,373 is putting her in a very dangerous spot.
Yeah, 800 calorie range.
Exactly. And then what happens next? When your body plateaus, as it always does, you have to do two things. You either decrease calories or you increase activity. Well, she has no calories to decrease, and she has to increase activity. Now, try increasing activity on low calories like that, and you're going to find yourself in an injurious place not far down the road.
Yeah.
So you're not going to lose any of that fat you want because you're not in a state to do it. Your gas tank is at half. It's not at full capacity.
All your joints are dry, you'll be hurt, and everything else.
Right. So now, finally answer that 30,000-foot view you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
When you see that person having that metabolism that's got a half a tank of gas because they just haven't eaten a lot of food, they've gotten busy, or they just purposely starve themselves to be as lean as they can, or yo-yo dieted, any of those things I just mentioned, then you have to build a metabolism. So what you do is you scientifically and intrinsically introduce small amounts of calories. It's different for male and female, and it's different for each body type, to be honest with you, and each person. You increase that slowly and let the metabolism adapt to it. It almost doesn't realize it's there, and it'll adapt to it. Because when you throw old school bodybuilding, you throw 500 calories into your diet every day, your body can't handle that type of adjustment that quickly. So you're putting on fat. You're not building all this anabolic muscle they're thinking of. They're putting on fat. So for all the viewers out there for muscle guys who want to build muscle, or females that do, you only have to be in a slight surplus. If you're in a surplus of 50 calories, just 50, you're in an anabolic state because you have more than you need. And that's what your body needs to build muscle. It doesn't need 500 calories or 1,000. It needs literally a surplus. That could be 1 calorie if you could really get down to that good of a science. And you're not going to do that. You're not going to get within 1 calorie. Nobody is. Not the best in the world who understand this are going to get within that. So usually they'll do 50 to 100 calories more when it comes to something like that for a surplus. But so we build that person's metabolism up to a max potential. Now let's take an example that I'm talking about. I have a 61-year-old named Rick. Rick doesn't mind I say his name and stuff. We just haven't put him out there fully yet because he and I both agree we want to see a nice full change and give him time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rick is 61. Rick's got pre-diabetic, cholesterol, blood pressure, a few other things going on. Well, he wants to live for his grandkids and retirement, which was recent. So with that said, I built Rick's metabolism, and this guy responded. Not everybody responds the same way, Lucas, but he responded exponentially well. I mean, unbelievable. He went from a 1,986 calorie metabolic rate or maintenance calories at 227 pounds to 4,100 and change calories a day. And get this now. That's what I tell everybody. In the beginning, this happens to everybody that does metabolic building. Well, not everybody. Most of my clients. I have one female client, Miss Tennessee International, Chandra Ladner. She's a different example. I'll give her next. He went from those calories, those 1986, that 4,100 change. He lost about 2 inches on his waist. His body composition increased from muscle to fat ratio. So he did something what pro science would call body recomp, gaining muscle while losing fat.
Right.
Hard to do in advanced athletes, but easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. In advanced athletes, it's roughly impossible. You can do a slight amount. You can do a little bit if everything's just done orchestrated well by science. Or if you're a beginner or intermediate lifter, you can do it all day long.
Mm-hmm.
No problem without anabolics, and you can be natural and do it. So he did that. Now that took some time. I think without looking back at his dietary log, I think that took us about 14 weeks to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some patience. And it's also discipline. So with that said, now his metabolism's primed to lose plenty of weight. So Rick went from 1,986 calories, not losing weight, to 4,100 change. He started dieting on 3,700 calories and losing weight.
Man.
So now he's already lost 2 inches and his body composition is better. Now he's in a nice weight loss phase. And right now he's taking him down pretty far. Our goal with him is to break him into possibly under 200s, getting down to maybe 185 even here down the road. But what I want to point out is in metabolic building, so everybody understands what happens to me. Because I've lost a couple clients throughout time because they just couldn't handle the psychological effect of weight on a scale. They focus on a scale too much.
Mm-hmm.
And the scale, Lucas, is it's crap. It's just a data marker, I tell all my clients. It's all it is. When you look good in the mirror, whatever that scale says, that's what you should accept. It doesn't matter what your weight is. It matters what you like to look like and what your body to fat ratio is. So, with Rick, for example, his body weight in the beginning of metabolic building, it actually moved up the first couple of weeks, very slightly. We're talking within a couple of weeks, he might have been up around a pound. That's about it. But I have to explain to viewers and I have to explain to my clients that that's food volume. When you increase food volume in your body, that weighs more because you have more waste. When you increase food volume, it's going to be increased in carbohydrates to a degree. Well, every gram of carbohydrate has an associated 2 to 3 grams of water molecule. So water weighs a decent amount. When you start adding a lot more carbohydrates to it, you can get up to several pounds, and a lot of pounds actually, depending on how the metabolic build goes. So that's more water in your muscles as well because your glycogen's increasing because that's carbohydrates. So that's twofold. So, but what ends up happening is he ended up going through the same thing most do, gain a little weight, lose the weight, Lucas, or maybe down 3 or 4 pounds, even 5 pounds, and then they start going back up again. And most people at the end of their metabolic build end up weighing the same thing they started, but they're down in several pant sizes or dress sizes, and they have a better body composition, and they haven't even started dieting yet. And I tell people out there, that's remarkable. They should be jumping for flat out joy to hear that. You've added calories to diet. You can eat a lot more food, and you've lost inches, and your body composition is better. You haven't even started dieting yet. But some people just hate the idea of even going through a weight gain to weight loss ratio and ending up the same. But it's so new to people that metabolic building, it's hard to wrap their mind around it in the beginning, I think.
Yeah, for sure it is.
Does that explain what it is?
Yeah.
To a decent degree?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you hit the nail right on the head, because, that's something that I was, I was looking through the dietary log and or the user interface there, and I seen what my maintenance calories were, and you just added, I don't know how much it was, 500 calories or whatever it was, over the top of it. And I thought, man, that does not make sense. How do you start off a diet by adding calories? So, like I told you on the phone, I've talked about it for years and haven't been preaching it. So I'm just going to follow what it is that you're telling me to do. So that's what I did. And the craziest thing, like you say, I'm retaining a little water, and I knew I was retaining a little water because I could see it in my face. I can tell by my face whether I'm, retaining water or not. I'd wake up a little puffier and what have you. But you told me at the beginning of the week, you said, pay attention to your waistline. So I've been doing that. I've been paying attention to the waistline. Now, at the beginning of the day, first thing in the morning, I feel a little puffier, but I've actually lost like 3/8, quarter inch to 3/8 of an inch off my waistline. I thought, well, there's something to this, because, at 4 o'clock in the evening, which is generally, or not 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening when I get home, it's been pretty consistent. It was pretty consistent. But it's been consistently a quarter to 3/8 of an inch less. And this has just been a week. Today's a week worth of it. So it was very interesting. I thought, well, there's something to this that I missed. I just didn't get it. So we're going to continue on down this road and just see where it goes.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, if I could just, if you could let somebody plug into your head or just show a video screen of all the examples of clients that you have in your head after a while, every one of them said the same thing, and it's that. I only have a few outliers. Like I said, this Tennessee International, I don't know how many divisions there were, and pageant queen stuff until she was a client. But her division, which is the married division, she came to me through a referral, and she was remarkable. In 4.5 weeks, I increased her metabolism 476 calories, and she lost 9.35 pounds, and her muscle composition increased. Now, she's what I call, and is coined out there with the people I've learned from, as a hyper responder. Mm-hmm. You don't have hyper responders all the time,
right? And
typically, hyper responders are that ectomorph, that very lean body type, kind of tall and lean, looks like a basketball player to a degree,
mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. When you have a mesomorph kind of V body shape, or you're a larger individual, male or female, that bone structure, everything else, they typically end up gaining at the end of a metabolic build, like by a couple pounds, because they're primed to gain muscle usually more than the other body types, is what it is.
Mm.
To be honest. And think about this. This is great for all the guys out there listening, or the girls who do want to gain muscle. When you're in a metabolic build, you're actually doing the same thing I also coach. There's a program I have called Lean Muscle Building. And what it is it's basically the idea of metabolic building. It's just we already have you down to a lean state you want to be at, and we're wanting to put you in slight surpluses for a certain amount of time, and then cut that surplus of weight off in a short amount of time. So you're always kind of building up and being in a nice anabolic state of muscle growth. And it's very similar to a metabolic build. So when people are metabolic building, they're increasing their metabolism, they're getting to eat more food, and you're actually primed to be in an anabolic state of muscle growth. If they understood that, those three things I just said, if they really just grasped their mind around it, they would be like, I want to do that. I want that right there now.
Yeah.
Because you just gave me three things. I'm increasing my metabolism, eating more food, and I'm in an anabolic state of muscle growth.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful concept, right? I mean, I'm look forward to getting into that portion of it. Now, with metabolic building, I don't know why I keep screwing that up, but we'll continue on. Is there a diet, or when I say diet, do you prescribe to any type of diet, or is there any type of diet that you wouldn't prescribe to with metabolic building?
So, good question on that. Because this is going to get into a thing I always like to think about this at some point. Because if I did every podcast, you're kind of going to hear the same categories of information. It won't be the same conversation, same details exactly, or examples, but categories. Because this isn't complicated, Lucas. It really isn't. It's really simple once you get to that level of understanding. You can build a metabolism, you can diet people, you can maintain them, you can lean muscle build them. But besides that, I mean, unless you just want to gain weight, that's it. I mean, that's all there is, and thankfully it is that simple. But here's the diets that I recommend. So all these years in bro science, you know that it's vegetables and it's fish, or it's tons of steak and it's potatoes, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always or right now it's 6 years ago it's Atkins.
Yeah.
4 years ago with my wife, we actually went through a whole keto thing because I had to be able. I knew I was going to coach people one day,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to be able to and I had to be able to speak to it. So I mean, I had a glucometer,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was measuring after every meal. I was pricking my finger for blood glucose level and millimole level. So millimoles are the measurement for for the viewers, how many ketones are in your blood or in your body. That is.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I did that with her, and then all of a sudden now I said, watch and see. 4 years ago, the keto is going to be the next thing you see on every national commercial, and everybody's going to be jumping on the bandwagon to earn money off this deal. And here we are. I saw a commercial today and pointed out to it. Yeah, and she's like, well, it's been on here for a while. I said, yeah, but my point is, that's the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just if people in the industry I'm in, you're going to see that fad starting before the other people see the fad.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I tell people, and this is what's so freeing. It doesn't matter what diet you like. It doesn't matter if you're paleo, if you're Atkins, if you're keto, if it's Mediterranean diet, if you want the South Beach diet from the TV commercial. It doesn't matter what diet you like. If you like Southern food, as long as you already know, Lucas will give me in a short time, as long as you hit the calories your body needs for that day, whether you're maintaining, losing, or metabolic building, whatever it is, you are going to be successful. And it doesn't matter if it's all from Twinkies or if it's all from steak. Now, if we eat Twinkies all day long, we know that we're going to put our internal body, into a state that's not healthy.
Well, shit.
Versus
I'm going to have to start eating something else.
My wife and I did a video recently to advertise the same thing you're using, the dietary interface.
Yeah.
Now, I created that. I use it for one-on-one clients, but I created that for people who really couldn't afford it. Blue collar America couldn't afford a one-on-one coach. Go to the gym at Gold's and get $50 an hour for a personal trainer, or somebody of my level, which is not cheap. That for $29.99 a month, this system will coach you because it's all my knowledge and science in there. And I'll be honest with the viewers out there, the difference, Lucas, and this is for you to know one day, or we've talked about. I like to coach people because I give them an education.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this system will educate them, but just not to the level I will, because I'm going to be talking to you and explaining a lot of things where it gives you a message every week, whether you hit your goal, didn't hit your goal, and what it's going to do and why. So it tells you so that you get coached yourself, and down the road you may not be able to coach anybody else, but you can coach you. It'll take you through metabolic build if you're in the wrong calorie ratio. It'll take you through lean muscle build if you want. It'll maintain you. It revolves around and changes your metabolic rate through calculations and analysis over time. It's very smart. It took a long time to develop my computer engineer and myself. But it'll do the same thing I will do, except it takes more time. Because when someone gains weight in a week, Lucas, like when you will here soon at some point, I'll ask you several questions. And if I say, if you look and find out your fiber increased a lot, well, guess what? Fiber has a lot of water. That's the water gain. If your sodium and water levels, like let's say you're used to drinking a gallon a day like that, I haven't been drinking much water lately this week. I feel a little more dehydrated. And I had to eat out more. I'm going to say, well, Lucas, we ate processed foods, more sodium. Your water levels down. Anytime you have a sodium and water imbalance, it causes weight gain, and it can be weight loss. So when people gain and lose weight throughout the week, you gain or lose weight 1 to 3% of your total body weight day to day, and that's okay. So if you're my 280-pound former NFL lineman and have a client, that guy can swing up to 7 or 8 pounds a day. Now he doesn't, but he can, and it would be normal. Everybody else would think, well, God, I've gained so much fat in a day. No, you just fluctuated.
Yeah.
Your sodium and water can be imbalanced that much, and potassium too, to be honest. So it doesn't matter for the viewers out there listening. It does not matter what food you eat from an external perspective, what your body looks on the outside. You can get there by eating Twinkies. Now you're not going to gain a lot of muscle with Twinkies. There's not enough protein there. You're not going to retain a lot of muscle if you're in a diet phase, because you need more protein in a diet phase than not being in one to retain muscle as much as possible, or lean body mass, we call it. So that's the beautiful thing about this programming and this knowledge from science. It doesn't matter if you're having fried chicken or if you're having fish, if you want broccoli. Go back to that video I was talking about with my wife and I. We were advertising the dietary interface. We held up 3 items: a 5-ounce glass of red wine, a Hershey's bar, and I think it was a 3.5 or 4-ounce avocado. Roughly, they were all 220 calories. So it doesn't matter when the calories equate for the external physique. So that's a very important thing that everybody should hear today, is that you can eat whatever food you like. You have to know what your maintenance calories are, and you have to know if you're in a dieting phase, if you're in a muscle build phase. That's simply it. Now, the macronutrients I give you, Lucas, the protein, fat, and carb, and fiber. Protein I give you to keep your muscle growing. And it can fluctuate. Some people I'll give them 0.8. Some people I'll take up to 1.2 or higher of the body weight. Depends on the situation. For fat, if you're in a diet phase, I can take you down as low as 15%. If you're in a maintenance phase, I take people as high as 45 and 50%. Depends on what their body really relates to. I have some people who really crave more fat than carbohydrate. And if you'll listen to each person and dial in what they need more, you'll find out that their body and they're happier on a general daily basis. And also, the hardest thing in dieting, and period, or any kind of eating plan, is a lot of people think it's a lot of things. It's just one thing: adherence. That's the biggest problem, is adhering to it. Well, adhering to a diet is a lot psychological. And besides psychological, it's hormone level. Because when you're starving from dieting, there's a hormone called ghrelin. And ghrelin is your hunger hormone, and it tells your brain that you're hungry. Well, vice versa, there's a hormone called leptin, and that's what tells the brain and signals it and says, you can go ahead and release fat. I'm not in a starvation mode anymore. So you can't beat hormone, and you can't psychologically overcome it for years and years and years. You will lose. So that's why when you have a variety of food, and you can have a Snickers, or you can have a burger and fries out somewhere, still hits your calories that you need for your goal, or close to your macronutrients for that day as well. That's a very freeing psychological thing to say, I can have it. Because as soon as you say, I can't have it,
you want it.
It's not long before you want it. It's not long before you eat it.
Yeah, for sure. And now here's something I wanted to ask you about specifically: is in the metabolic build process, is it normal to have more ghrelin? Is it normal to be hungry more?
No, it's not in the metabolic build, because you're actually actually I should say this first. Some people, because they've been in such a place of low calorie, they put themselves there. When you first start building metabolism, the first few weeks they'll be kind of full, even though I've only added a little bit of calories to the diet. And they're full. They're just not used to eating that much. But their metabolism starts increasing, and all of a sudden, it's like the ghrelin level kicks in and says, hey, you're giving me food now. I want to go back to where I want to be. I want to go back to my body fat set point. I want to go to where I feel good. And they'll all of a sudden get an uptick of being hungry for a little bit. But then once they kind of get back to that level, they're not hungry anymore. Because for people who've ever tried to gain weight out there, they'll say, man, it's so hard. And people who are trying to lose weight would be so mad at that. But here's the thing. Your body will signal you the opposite way too. When you're eating too much and you're trying to gain weight, your body doesn't want to do it. Your ghrelin levels aren't signaling anything, so you just feel like you're not hungry. You can't eat. You feel so full. Again, the body is a smart machine. It defends gaining too much. It defends losing too much. The hardest part is telling your body to change the body fat set point you want it in your life from what it wants. That's the hard part.
Well, man, this has been some fantastic information, and I would like for you to boil it down to a few things for our listeners here. So it's, at the beginning of 2019 here, we're already in February though, and there's been a lot of New Year's resolutions. So where do people need to start? What's the, 3 to 5 easy things or things that people need to start doing to get this under control to help them out with their 2019 resolutions?
Okay. Number one, you need to understand and find out how to find your maintenance calories. And that's probably going to take finding a coach that knows how to do it. And if you go to a coach that says, here's an equation I use, equations can be easily up to 300 to 500 calories off, and 500 calories 7 days in a row is a pound of fat. So you need to find somebody who actually knows how to find your maintenance calories or your metabolic rate from your body's data, from the data from your body only. That's number one. Number two, if you need to be able to determine from those calories, again, with somebody that knows, what is a healthy calorie for my body size, and if I'm not meeting that calorie from my maintenance calories I just found, I need to metabolically build. And they need to be able to build that metabolism, because who doesn't want to diet on higher calories? Who doesn't want to eat more food? And just in general, know that you're losing fat, better body composition in an anabolic state by building your metabolism. That's number two. Number three is to get rid of this myth of there's clean foods, there's only certain foods you can eat, and keto is the only way, or Atkins is the only way, or paleo is it. Listen, there is no secret diet that puts you in some great testosterone, anabolic building place. It doesn't exist. Stop listening to the magazines. And if people say that to you, if they hear this, I'm telling you, they're flat lying to you, or they don't know they're lying to you.
Right.
It's not true. Keto is not some magical diet, and neither is Atkins, neither is paleo. Even a lot of CrossFit people do it. It is not it. There's nothing wrong with carbohydrates. There's nothing wrong with fat. There's nothing wrong with protein. So get that out of your head. You can eat the foods you like. There is a certain calorie number for you, and there is a better macronutrient ratio for you. Again, each person's body is different. There is an average, but the more you dial it into your body, I hope everybody hears this, the more you dial it into your independent biological needs, the better you're going to perform and the better you're going to look. So that's the next one. Then from there, for you ladies out there, it's not cardio. Put cardio in yourself to death. Running long distance does not make you have a nice, hard, lean body, muscularly. Doing a lot of cardio actually will put you into a muscle loss and fat retention state. Doesn't mean you won't lose. If you spend more calories than you take in, you're going to lose body. You're going to lose fat. But running long distance actually hurts muscle growth. It makes you lose it. So for everybody out there listening, that's why bodybuilders have walked on treadmills for a long time, and that's why you see them doing it.
Yeah,
because walking burns fat.
20
Not
minutes.
burn muscle.
Yeah, 20 minutes at just the slowest speed you ever seen, and that's what I mean. Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler and all those guys. When you see them doing cardio, it's the saddest cardio you've ever seen in your life, and they're shredded.
Exactly, and the thing about it is, they're burning fat; they're not burning muscle. And the other thing, if you walk the slowest rate of walking, 20 minutes for a mile, it's roughly 2.2 miles an hour, I believe. I'm exactly right. It's either 2 or 2.2. So if you walk 3 miles in an hour, a small female should burn around 240 calories, a larger male up to 365 or more. Well, you're not, and again, you're burning into fat. You're not actually taking away muscle that you've built. So just hear that out there. That's the next thing I would say. And then the last one We haven't even talked about strength conditioning. We'll have to do another podcast if you're interested. We can get into that whole thing for sure. Because I can pretty much talk an hour on any of these individual topics easily. But the last one is forget the scale, folks. The scale is for data. It's to take in data to reach your goals. It is not meant to go, oh man, I gained today, and I lost today. Or look, you're psyching yourself out. If you just listen to this, 1 to 3% of your total body weight can fluctuate day to day from food volume, from the time you ate it late at night or in the morning. If your sodium level increased due to eating more processed foods and you didn't drink as much water, because if you drink the same amount of water and increase sodium, guess what? You're in an imbalance because more sodium requires more water. So it's easy to fluctuate each day because no one eats the same thing usually.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us are a little bit more creatures of habit, but not exactly the same. And then also for more fiber. If you have high stress, weight goes up. If you have, it's cortisol. If you aren't getting as much sleep, you're in sleep deprivation, your weight can go up. For ladies in their menstrual cycle, they're going to fluctuate 3 to 5 pounds every menstrual cycle on average. So all these are reasons to say, man, that guy said that those 5 or 6 reasons to get weight can fluctuate each day. I need to quit paying attention to the scale. That's why, Lucas, I take an average.
Mm-hmm.
An average of weight over so many days, because that's how you find a real data point, data marker, not day to day. Because the day to day is going to make you be emotional. And emotional is not scientific. Emotional makes you fail every time. Those are the big hit things from a dietary standpoint that I would tell anybody all the time.
Beautiful. And, I wanted to cover diet today because I was just preaching to somebody the other day. I want to do abs. I want to get some abs. We need to do some more abs. If I'm doing abs 3 times a week, I'm going to get some abs. I said, you're never going to see your abs by doing more abs. I said, you already have them. You just got to go up there in the kitchen and fix your situation, because abs are built in the kitchen. They're not built in the gym.
Well, and see, you said it perfectly. And honestly, if you want to keep it that simple, that's exactly what it is. And so simple does work. That's exactly right. And matter of fact, I know plenty of people, I have a couple of different bodybuilders who compete, that follow my program with strength and conditioning. They don't even do abs.
Yeah.
They don't do a crunch, because abs are built, if you're squatting, you're building abs.
Yeah. Deadlifting.
Abs are used along the way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're just under the skin and you can't see them. I'm not saying you can't develop the ab muscle like you can other things, but believe it or not, abs are like calves. They're used a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of stress on them to grow even more. So you nailed it there. So hopefully whoever you told that to is listening to you. But
I don't think they did.
It's hard,
but I want to keep telling them, and they'll finally listen.
It's hard to get past the magazine.
Yeah.
And a lot of the bro science. It is, because if that's all you hear all day long, or that's all you've ever heard, well, how do you know any differently? And then when somebody comes along and says Metabolic Build, they're like, no, I'm not increasing calories in my diet.
Yeah.
Not whatsoever. So that's why I have a testimonials page, and that's why I keep adding people to that testimonials page to prove it. Just like the best one, Lucas, for people out there who don't know this about me, this year I was very successful. I had a client named Colin Congo, and he won the PNBA, which is the Professional Natural Bodybuilding Association, and they also have the International Professional Natural Bodybuilding Association, INBA. One of the most recognized organizations for being natural, because they test their athletes by polygraph and actually test their steroids in the urinalysis. Mm. And when they fake it and get past them, and they find out later by the test going hot, they actually have a wall of shame. They put every one of them listed on there. You can see their big smile and their big picture in the trophy, and it's on the wall of shame. So
got the little trend card under them.
Exactly. He won Mr. Olympia in the natural division. Obviously, it's a natural competition, and he's got all over our social media and our website. He's done great testimonials for us. Man, you couldn't have a better client. He literally said, "I was a run-pack bodybuilder, and I got him his highest placing in his pro division career at second place within 2 months, and within 5 months when he went to Olympia, he won it." And we did it off science. He was eating peach cobbler the week before the competition because we hit his calories and we hit his macros by doing it still. And after a while, it won't take long, but people will start going, wait a second, man. I've heard too many testimonials. I've heard this pro natural athlete, Mr. Olympia, say, you know, he eats all the foods he wants. We even, look at this, I say this for you often, we put him on a diet break for 10 days to go to Europe. He did not work out for 10 days. He did not, he went on maintenance calories because I kept up with what his maintenance approximately was. And he went over there, and no joke, because we knew he'd be walking around a lot, and I did the same calculation I just told you. I knew what 60 minutes of walking was and about how much he was going to walk per day and what his maintenance calories were. We set him up on that plan. He comes back, Lucas, and he lost weight. And he was refreshed and good to go.
Yeah.
And he ate any food he wanted in Europe.
I would say I've never went on vacation and come back lighter than I left.
Sure did. I mean, now, I have a client who says, I'm going to eat the food I want, but I'm not going to go over what my coach said I can go over because I know I'm going to gain. Now, he did that. But, again, he didn't go there and say, I have to have broccoli and fish every meal. No, I had desserts and I had foods I liked and wanted. It's just, and so I keep preaching it so much because women will listen, especially women, Lucas, because they're the ones that have a hard time with this. They'll say, wow, I can eat the foods I want. So that's why I get a lot of client testimonials, or I like them. When you're done with yours, I'll ask you for one.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring up the Congo guy because I was seeing his pictures look great. I mean, look fantastic on stage. And so I was going to bring him up, and I'm going to ask you to name drop a little bit because I've had some, I've talked to some people, and some of them wanted to know who is it that you've worked with, professionally. There's some NFL guys and some college athletes and stuff. Who all have you worked with?
There is. I'll name a few. Like I said before, like we've talked about, there's professionals I have right now that don't want to be named. And that's how it is in the professional field, especially football or basketball.
Yeah.
Because the reason is they don't want, when they're getting an edge, for their
somebody else to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I've honestly told Congo, I'm loyal to my athletes. Over money, I'm loyal to my athletes. I think that's going to pay off in the end, that kind of integrity and honesty.
Yeah.
Well, anybody from his division, I will not coach. So
that's a nice place for him to be in, for sure. That's mentally, when your coach, you see your coach talking to one of your other competitors, that's mentally frustrating and dangerous to your mentality going on stage.
You nailed it. And that's 60 competitors. And honestly, since he won and he spoke about what we did, because we did a very risky thing. It's new. It's not my idea. It's pioneered by a guy named Cliff Wilson, who's a real pioneer in this area. He's just a phenomenal coach. And I took one of his protocols, which he doesn't give out. I just have enough education and have spoken on podcasts, ask questions when he's there and things like that. And I studied molecular biology, and it worked. So it's hard to get a natural athlete what we call full. Mm-hmm. Really full, popping, just tight muscles when you're in a very depleted state. Well, I got Congo that way, and that's why he won.
Yeah.
Because the guy he lost to in his competition before the Olympia, he didn't even make top 12 at the Olympia.
Wow.
He was there. So, yeah, I mean, it was good proof. I mean, he was very full muscularly. Mm-hmm. So that's another topic we can talk about another day. But basically, some of the people, Shane Bonham, he's a former defensive tackle for the 49ers and Lions. He was a Tennessee defensive tackle, and he actually went to the Air Force Academy first. He is a client right now. He hasn't been under 270 pounds in like 25 years. And no college or professional coach or nutritionist, anybody he's worked with could ever get him below it. He's below it right now. And I built his metabolism, and he's below that now. We're going to take him further. Matt McLaughlin, he's people seen me do some videos with him because I do some defensive tactics for law enforcement, military, and I have an active shooter program. That's a whole other thing for like our schools and our hospitals and stuff that are getting all this happening to them. Well, I have a program that's maybe we can talk about that in the future, Lucas. No one has this program. That's an honest statement. It's a very well. I'll just say this: the University of Tennessee Emergency Preparedness Director just told me the other day that he agreed no program out there has these answers. So, but that gentleman, Matt McLaughlin, that I trained in college, he was in the same combine that Brock Lesnar was in.
Oh, really?
And yeah, he was the same year.
Mm-hmm.
he benched 43 times 225. Matt McLaughlin did, and I think Lesnar beat him with either 44 or 45. I can't remember right now. It was a new record that time. Right now it's like 53.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt, we have a video on my website on the strength page where he pops up immediately when I'm interviewing him. Because I took him from where he was doing it like 28 times to 43. On his squat, I took him to where he was like 545 up to right at 700 pounds squat.
Makes my knees hurt thinking about it.
But, yeah, no joke. But his diet was done by me as well. And back then I didn't know as much as I know now, but it still worked very well for him then with what I did know. So he's another one. There's a few professional jiu-jitsu fighters that I have, because I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well from the kind of law enforcement end. And one got third in what's called No-Gi World here in the U.S. Just a few months ago. And he was a wrestler before, and he gave me a good testimonial. Said, I've never made weight so easily and actually competed with so much energy, just from the scientific perspective. His name's John Knight. Mm-hmm. There's another one too, named JoJo. Is a simpler way to say his name, but he's on my website too. I have for those people out there in law enforcement, military, I have several special agents. Federal agents that have come to me. One recently was going to the FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center Academy. He gave a great testimonial on our page. He doesn't have a picture, obviously for some reasons, but we have his testimonial. He got like third in his class on push-ups. He was second in the run, and he was just very prepared. Lost about, you have to look at the website, but I think he lost 24, 25 pounds.
Wow.
And got more muscle in about 3 months. Built his metabolism too. Some of the other athletes out there, although I consider, well, she's a professional. Miss Tennessee's obviously a client, Chandra Ladner. And then I honestly wish that I could say some of my professional athletes that are current, like in the National Football League or a few basketball players, and a couple track athletes actually, but I just can't. I wish I could, because they would say, "Wow, that's who you're coaching," and it'd be a lot of notoriety. But that's a few to name that I've had out there. Back when I was at Tennessee, actually, as a strength coach, and afterwards, when Bruce Pearl was here, I had a couple athletes that I gave diets to. Ryan Childress is one. It was the same year that Chris Lofton was here. And I didn't give Chris Lofton a diet per se. I gave him a lot of diet advice. Jordan Howell was another one back in the day that were at Tennessee. Now, right now, I haven't said this on the viewers yet. I'm an adjunct strength coach for Tennessee right now, actually. So I give my time in a volunteer way now. Just kind of stay with it. They need some help. Strength coaches are kind of undermanned at a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I cannot give those athletes dietary guidance. It'd be against what I'm allowed to do, and also they have nutritionists. But the ones who are graduating and have heard what I've done or know about it, they're reaching out to me as well. Especially a lot of track athletes. They're finding out that a lot of our track athletes, they're in that same phase, Lucas, that everybody else is. They've eaten a lot of this processed food and just go to the cafeterias and eat whatever, and they don't realize that up to a certain point, when you're leaner, you're going to perform better. You jump a little higher, you run a little faster, and that matters in track and field, obviously. So a few of them have spoken to me just recently and said, "Man, I'd like to get leaner." And I said, "You'll definitely perform better." So that's just a little bit of a synopsis of a few people out there that I'm dealing with right now.
Well, that's those are some good names. We'll look them up. And the other thing about college athletes is notoriously, colleges don't feed their athletes they feed them very well, but not what you would consider clean food in general. Those
absolutely.
Those tables that they lay out for them in the locker rooms aren't generally loaded down with carrots and tomatoes.
No, they're not. Not at all. And the other thing too, I just want to say this before we get off here, is that the athletes when they go to college, they'll always talk about. You hear commentators all the time. I know you heard it all season long. I was a freshman. He came in at this. They packed on 40 pounds of muscle and all that. Let me explain to some of everybody out there. it's extremely easy to take someone who hasn't worked out or they've worked out some and make them a whole new person.
Yeah.
Freshmen in college usually come from high schools. They work out some. They might do a 4-day program, but it's nothing like what college strength coaches know. Well, that's why they transform so much. If you'll look after their freshman year, about halfway through their sophomore year, compare that to their senior year, and I bet they're not a whole lot different.
Oh yeah.
That's where the real good strength coaches come into play. Is can you take somebody who is already peaked out and make them better? And that's why I always tell people that's the true mark. That's what I want to be looked at as. That's with like Congo. I took somebody who's a professional at their peak and made them better. That's what I want to be every time with my athletes, that I made somebody who's advanced already better. I think that's what speaks volumes.
Yeah. Just a little congratulations. I was stalking your Instagram a little bit. You recently received your black belt in jiu-jitsu, going back to the jiu-jitsu, didn't you?
I actually did. Yeah, I did. And that one means a lot to me because not that anybody else with a black belt from some school doesn't matter. It does. But that instructor, Lucas, is Samuel Braga. Now, in America, that means nothing to a lot of people, but that is one of the winningest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champions ever. He's won 13 national titles.
Mm.
He has his own move that he created. It's coined after him. So to get it from him meant a great deal.
Yeah. Now, what's his lineage? Is he a Gracie lineage? Is he a Jean-Jacques lineage?
It's called Gracie Baja, which is Carlos Gracie, which is where most of your very good MMA fighters in the beginning and even still from now, they're kind of Carlos Gracie camp people.
Yeah.
So he started in New York, and of course he's passed. Carlos Gracie Jr. is in New York now, and I think he's in Chicago now. But that's that lineage, and who his specific lineage is a real cool name, honestly, that people who are jiu-jitsu fans can look up. His name's Draculino.
Oh, okay.
And Draculino is in Houston, Texas. But if you look up Draculino and check the lineage, I mean, it's like literally going right to the Gracies back in Brazil that created UFC and everything else. And of course, Helio that passed away.
Yeah.
So but to say this, I'll say this though. It was a great accomplishment, but I'm telling you, that camp he has, there is just a lot of good people running through there because they're competitors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a handful of guys that go to Worlds every year from that camp. So,
well, congratulations on that. Thank you so much for coming on, dropping all this knowledge on us. Do us a favor and go ahead and plug your website. Tell us what it is, all that you do. What all do you offer?
All right. So there's two parts to it. And as a business person, it's changed recently. And there's a really good reason for it. So we have the fitness side, which is fitdieselstrength.com. And on that side, when you get to the website, you'll see an emblem. It's a Fit Diesel emblem. And if you click that, you're going to see strength and conditioning. You're going to see dietary analysis. You'll see, and they'll have dietary interface, which is obviously the thing I was talking about, where you can coach yourself for $29.99 a month, or you can go one-on-one coaching. And then you can go to, obviously, the strength and conditioning. You can go to recipe hacks. I actually have a page. Every recipe I have, it's $1. But what I did was I took a lot of recipes from desserts and holiday stuff and just everyday foods that we all like, even pizza doughs and stuff. And I call recipe hacking it. I basically found healthy ingredients that still have taste, that still taste good. And that's what those are. So, that's the recipe hack side. Then you jump over to what we call the live programs now. Because the active shooter plan I told you about, I copyrighted that emergency action plan and security assessment, but the principle, it's called the live principle, I copyrighted, which stands for lock, instruct, vantage point, and engage. And that's for kids, students, teachers of hospitals, worship centers, whomever, when they're unarmed, that they know what to do in hallways, how to see a danger area before they enter it, how to evacuate a facility and see a danger area, and how to use safe movement methodologies to move away in a safe pattern and be from an active shooter to pop out or be out there, and also what to do in that room. Because right now, nothing's working. None of the plans have been out there and worked. And I used to be the lead active shooter instructor for the Department of Homeland Security in Washington, D.C. for my field office. So I know that plan well because I taught it. It's just too generalized, and the rest of the private sector ones are as well. So that's that program. We also have law enforcement training for specifically close quarter battle or CQB or SWAT teams entering a room or military type guys entering a room. And we also specifically focus on one person CQB, which is kind of unheard of in the law enforcement world. Most military, it's a very high level special operations thing that's to be done or known because it's the hardest thing to do. So we focus on that up to multi-team. And we teach defensive tactics, of course, kind of within use of force for law enforcement, but kind of from an MMA perspective, from a gross motor, what really works. I wouldn't not knocking Taekwondo; it's a great Olympic sport, but I wouldn't use that in law enforcement exactly. And even jiu-jitsu, you need to know it, but you don't want to be on your ground in the back when you're a cop or you're in the military. You don't want that; it's not the place to be. And then the last thing is firearms. The agency I came from has the highest firearms qualification, which really, we all say that doesn't mean anything. You're just shooting paper targets, but they have the highest fundamentals. We learned from a lot of top tier special operations people, and even more importantly, some of the best competition shooters. Matter of fact, the number one in the U.S. was an instructor and a former colleague at one point, and one of the other gentlemen that shoots along with him was my mentor. And so we teach really high percentage of fundamentals. And a good example of that one, I know you're in the South, so you have to shoot something, Lucas. I haven't even asked you. You have to.
Yeah, I've got all kinds
I
of
don't know too many Southerners that don't. So my wife, she's never done a magazine reload. So I did a video from start to finish. And if everybody believed her saying she's never reloaded one, we had her reloading within 1 second, which is very respectable in law enforcement as a 1 second reload. And she was doing it several times in a row there. So I really focus on that. Like the nutrition we talked about tonight, I'm big on what's fundamental, what's scientifically proven, what's the high percentage gross motor thing to do that consistently can be hit, or when it comes to diet, that's consistently scientific. That's where I focus on. And that's where our whole business is based off of, is a streamlined, very evidentiary-based programming, whether it's in firearms, or whether it's active shooter, or whether it's nutrition.
Beautiful. Where can they find you? Besides your website, where can people reach out and find you at?
Also, there's the liveprogram.com, which is the live side of the house. And then, of course, they can reach out to us on social media. Facebook is Fit Diesel. Instagram's Fit Diesel Strength. YouTube's Fit Diesel. We have Pinterest, again, Fit Diesel. We have LinkedIn, which is Fit Diesel. We kind of keep that way instead of live. We have, you reach out to us there. We like any kind of messenger service from Instagram or Facebook's really good. We obviously have our a text line and call line as well for the business, which obviously you've used plenty of times, which is 865-234-2468. Any of those ways they can find us, to be honest.
Thank you so much. A lot of knowledge. Do want to do this again for sure. We come back and talk about weightlifting and some different principles around it, and you can tell everybody the same thing I do, that bench press only gets you really good at bench press, and we can talk about all these other things that I've bro-scienced over the year.
Hey, yeah, man, that'd be great. I enjoy podcasts. I mean, when you're passionate about something, you can pretty much talk about it for hours.
All day, yeah. And I'll sit and listen to it. I love this stuff. So this has been right in my wheelhouse, and so I've really liked it. And this is just been fantastic for me. I really appreciate it. Matt, we'll talk to you again in the future.
All right, sir. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
So there it was, folks. That was Matt. Hope everybody feels lean and mean and ready to go get on top of their diet here in the new year. In 2019, let's hit it, and let's hit it hard, and it's everybody getting in shape now. That's, let's just get after it. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to get back in shape. Trying to get into a shape other than, slightly oblong. I'll still have the big head, but at least everything else maybe will shrink a little bit. If you like Matt, reach out to him. You can find all of his information at fitdieselstrength.com. Head over to his website, shoot him an email, or, check out his dietary interface. If that sounds like something that would help you along, something we didn't cover was MyFitnessPal. He doesn't have any skin in the game with MyFitnessPal, but that's a good app. That's the app that I'm using that helps you track your macros and track your food that you're taking in and all your calories and what have you. So that's some good stuff. Good stuff in that podcast. It was a good interview. I enjoyed it. Said beautiful a few more times than what I meant to, but hey, you get into a rhythm sometimes, and that is what it is. I looked over for Dustin right then to see if there was anything else. There wasn't. There wasn't anything else there. Hey, we appreciate you listening. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you later.